us at the Liberty County School Board Workshop, Tuesday, June 21st, 2022, 5:30 come to order. Next, item 2, discussion regarding the program.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight we want to, I've had conversations with y'all regarding guardian programs, and I feel like we're in the right direction. As I discussed, I've talked with Mr. Revel, Mr. Arnold, with Sheriff. The guardian program came into an existence after Parkland shooting, and there's a packet in front of you. I apologize to the Sheriff's Office, they had made copies as well. This is from DOE's website. I sent y'all links to this already, so you have that, but I'm still a paper guy. I like to have stuff to refer to real quick. And but it kind of gives a history of how that came into existence. And so I don't want to take away from them. But this is what I would ask y'all as we start that conversation now corporately instead of individually. One, because Sunshine Law, one may not know how the other one feels about this, and obviously y'all can't discuss that kind of stuff outside board meeting. So I wanted to have this first workshop so y'all can kind of talk, discuss, ask questions. Somebody might have a question. We have been blessed, and I'm very proud of the fact that we've been in unity on our school board, and I just can't thank y'all enough. But if there's any one item that we sure enough need to be unified on, I believe it's this. It can be controversial. It changes the structure of the Liberty County school system. It puts firearms in the hands of people in the school system. That's, to the best of my knowledge, never been done before. Maybe in the 80s when we brought firearms to the back of our pickup trucks because we was hunting before school or something, but not in that kind of vein. Things have changed, and so we have violence in the schools. I'm very careful to say it's violence in the schools. Not, some people like to make it politicized and say, well, it's gun violence, but it's violence involving some guns, but it's violence. At the end of the day, it's violence. Whether you're throwing rocks or using a bow and arrow, it doesn't matter. It's violence. And the need or the expectations from our community. There's people talking, our constituents are talking, wanting to make sure our schools are protected. One of the great things, and it kind of, it's a real blessing, is that one of the initiatives with safe schools and all that kind of came into existence. Number one was have a school safety officer. We have one by state law. He has the ability to arrest people, and detain them. That's part of state law, and Ricky does a phenomenal job at that. He does multiple things, wears multiple hats, but his job is to make sure our schools are safe, district office is safe, kids are safe, staff is safe, and so that's his job. Another thing about it is they really the legislature put money that each school would have somebody, whether it be a guardian or SRO. Well, guess what? Liberty County, we already had SROs also. We were ahead of that. And so I'm very proud that, throughout the years, we've been able to do that and maintain it. And that program's grown in the last few years. We got some really good SROs in our schools. I just, when one gets pulled off and maybe gets another promotion, goes on the road or goes into another role, I'm always thinking, how are they going to replace that one? That was such a good one, and all of a sudden they do it. They do it every time. They go put somebody in there that's just as fine. And so these guys are personal. They're good guys. They know how to talk to people. They know how to talk to parents. They know how to talk to kids. And you'll see those SROs sometimes on the sideline helping coach. They just do it all. They just wear a lot of hats. But as we talk about this, and I'm gonna let them speak. I'm suggesting, I'm advising, I'm wanting y'all to do the guardian program. The board has to have final say so. If the board says no, we don't do it. But there's about 42 districts out of 67 that already do it. And Rob did it down in Franklin. They were part of that program. Rob's a certified card carrying guardian. We have some people in place. Ricky's one of them that has law enforcement credentials. We're gonna tweak that a little bit. I would love for him to carry. Daryl Johnson did that before. He was open carry when he served in that position. I think that gives he's in the schools all the time. I don't want him here just sitting around. I want him at school. And this morning was a great example. I'm at Oxford School at 7:30, and I'm meeting with some staff over there. They said, "Here comes Rick." That's what we want. That gives us an extra, presence of somebody who's able to help people and defend people. But I just want us to have that conversation. I want you to ask, as you should. I want to hear your heart. There are some questions. Some of y'all have given me some good questions. I don't know. We're gonna find out from the experts tonight. But the sheriff's office is really, supporting this. It goes through the sheriff's office. And if the sheriff said, "I don't want to do it," we would have the opportunity to go to a neighboring county and go through that. And that's all in your packet. I don't take away from what Bobby said, but I just want y'all to listen to him, ask those questions. We will not take any action tonight. This is a workshop setting. I just want to have those conversations and start that. And hopefully with the expectation, if everybody's unanimous, I really think this is something we need to be unanimous on. If anything we've ever been unanimous on, this should be one of them. I just want to get our questions answered, make sure we're all on the same page. So, guys, I'm gonna turn it over to y'all. Our workshops are very informal, so just speak up so the camera can hear it.
Thank you, Superintendent. Basically, these packets from DOE are really good if you just look to it. Page 13 goes over the training. I know that's probably a big question. So if you go to page 13, this is what the state requires. Each guardian has to complete an initial 144 hours of training. 12 hours of that is diversity training, and 132 hours are firearm training. They have to be pretty proficient, 85%, which is higher than what we are required to do. So there's a lot of training that goes through, and if you go through that, it basically explains from page 13 to page 16. And then there's also the yearly requirements. They require 8 hours of defensive tactics training, 12 hours of legal training, 16 hours of the firearm training again with the pistol. So a lot of this is on the sheriff's office. We would be doing the training. We would carry the liability insurance we have to have on each guardian. I've talked to Bay County Sheriff's Office. They were the first sheriff's office who started this several years ago. A lot of this is done through grants, and that's what we would need. Obviously, the cost for the training. Supply the firearm, holster, and then the ammunition and a vest. They would be given a vest that could be kept inside their office. If something was to happen, they would put that vest on. It would probably be red, so we can identify them. If we were coming inside the school, we would know who they're, and obviously we'll already know who the guardians are. There's different ways that you can do it. The state requires you can either open carry or conceal. That would kind of be up to us how we would do it. I think we kind of discussed a little bit. We would like concealed carry. So it's kind of, I guess, up to us how we would mandate that. A lot of this is really done on the sheriff's office. If y'all are good with it, and the sheriff's good with it, then we basically take over the entire program.
Can we interject?
Yeah, absolutely.
A couple of questions, the liability insurance. So sheriff's office would assume the liability insurance, so we would not, let me just ask a question. That's not, say a kid got a gun, we get sued. What does that look like if it's a liability? Does that fall back on this insurance, or would it fall back on the school?
I would assume both.
A kid got a gun from authority.
I would assume probably both. At the end of the day, we got the insurance, we have a pretty substantial insurance policy, and there's gonna be something there. We both probably get. Yeah, I would probably.
Well, your guardian should be known who they are.
Do what?
The guardian should be known who they are.
No, okay, let's say John Doe is carrying, we go with concealed, but yet he makes a boo-boo and he's got it in his back pocket, right behind.
He leans over and they see it in
He
his
leans over
holster.
and some little kid reaches and says, oh, look, Mr. Doe, you've got a gun, and he grabs it. And then that's a liability. Who's gonna carry that? I mean, would it, the liability, I would assume it would be a very strong policy for liability, but we,
Most of this will come, training will come into effect too, so the defensive tactics, they'll learn to, know who's around, 21 feet, 360 degrees. So most guardians shouldn't allow, I know it's gonna happen, but.
I'm thinking worst case scenario.
Yeah,
I mean, I just,
And there's always a possibility, but, during the selection process, the guardians have to pick, that's things that they're gonna be trained on, knowing when people are around them, to move your gun away from somebody, like you'll see us if we're talking to somebody, if they get right in front of us, we'll kind of stand slanted.
Right.
Because we're trained to do that, keep our gun away.
so that's kind of.
And that's the training that I assume that you went through.
And your holsters now aren't, you just pull out holsters, there's a safety letter that. a lot of people don't know.
So yeah, retention.
So we can go with different type of holsters where you can't just pull it out like that.
But if they grab it, then they're going to the ground.
I want to go real quick and I'm gonna jump off the guardian, I'm gonna jump off the guardian program, but we're talking about security. I mean, I've talked to a lot of people. I've reached out to a lot of people around this county, talked to the same thing, majority of them. Now, I'd say 99% say, well, we shouldn't be doing that full time, But there is that 1% that I actually found and told her, sitting and told her that said, no, they do not agree with it. So, just to be fair, I just want to get that out there. Now, we can have a guardian program, we can put SROs in there all day long, but if we are propping doors, and I've already talked to Kyle about this, we are propping doors at these schools, or a gate is blatantly open with a rock, propped open with a rock. It's not going to do us a daggone bit of good. Now, saying that, there are schools that I have been told have been mandated to lock their classrooms. I'm gonna look at Rob, was that Franklin County?
Yes.
Okay, so they locked the classrooms besides the out exterior doors. Do we do that in any of our schools?
Yes.
Our classrooms are locked, meaning I could not walk up to the first grade right now and open a classroom door.
Not supposed to be able to.
Okay.
And all the hardware is, when you lock it from the outside, it's still open and all from the inside. Kids are free
So
to
it's
go.
fire, it's fire marshal.
Everything's code, but every classroom has the hardware where the classroom is supposed to be locked. And I walk around, when I do my walks,
I do
that's
too.
it. Go.
When I go
Okay,
to school,
that answers a huge question for me because I didn't think we had that in place.
Yes.
So I just, and if you're, we do have a safety person policing that, that makes me feel a lot
I
better.
check when I go to the schools, I check doors as well. I check doors as well. Makes it harder for y'all. James and Doobie remembers the time when the board could just walk in a class and sit there and 20 minutes, watch the teacher speak, get up and go to the next class. We can't do that anymore. I mean, we can, but somebody's got to unlock doors.
I got no problem. I'm going in there every day and that lunchroom is typically locked. when I go
And
there.
Jody, I can honestly say, you might go into somewhere, you might find a door that's unlocked, because I've been trying as hard as I can to get 100% buy-in, and you still have teachers who say, I don't want to be inconvenienced and have to open a door for a kid when they go out and go to the bathroom.
I hear it, but.
So it's an uphill battle, but I can tell you in the year that I've been here, it's a lot better now than it was, and we're gonna try to make it even better.
And address your issue about, I sent out a directive to all the principals as soon as you and I talk, make sure you are policing the campus, make sure that is not happening. And we're trying to reduce the amounts of openings where people can get in. If they've got to walk around and come in through the front, that's fine, so be it. But in the Uvalde thing, it was prompt door, That's what I hear. I wasn't there, but I've read that there was a prop door that made it easier for somebody to go in. And as you and I discussed, for a person that wants to do evil, all they got is time. They just wait you out and say, okay, I've watched you, I've been here for 2 weeks and I see what the weakness is. That's where I'll go in.
And you know, it was just like you said, that open door. I watched the actual video footage of some of it in this last week's class, and the boy actually went into the classroom, or went straight into the classroom. And we had been preaching that before, because I also watched some footage from a shooting that happened about 3 years ago, where 2 boys actually shot in the classroom. They entered that classroom and left the classroom 3 different times before they got up enough courage to do the shooting. The door was locked and everything in the classroom. They entered the classroom, left the classroom, entered, left, and entered again, and the teacher never questioned why they were doing that. So we all got to do our job. You know, just
And it starts with leadership.
Yeah,
That culture's got to change. And I think if they
And I
see
think
the board and they see administration, and they're leading the charge, I think.
It will not be optional. to school.
Yeah.
They'll do it, or they can go somewhere else.
One question I have, let's talk about timing. Now, when would this program, I guess it would have to go in front of the board. The money, to get the program started, what we're talking about as far as the timing goes.
So I don't think that we would be able to do it this upcoming school year because of the grant. I'm not sure exactly when. We would have to apply for that grant yet. To be honest with you. Do you know?
We can start the program anytime after July 1st, and your sheriff's office can be reimbursed for it. The RFI will come out probably the end of July to the 1st of August. From the other schools that have started, I've been talking to, you know, this grant will cover training tools also, like if you need to buy a simulator for the no shoot simulation or any of that stuff. So we actually could apply for the grant. We might not have enough time this year to train any individuals to get guardians in the school year by 2023, but we could get the grant and start putting training tools in place so that when we get out of school next year or whatever, or next summer, we can start training. That's kind of the way other schools have been doing it. They take the first year's grant, get everything, get that policies written, start doing screenings. That way that money's paying for everything for the next year.
So that's budget. You're talking about the budget first.
So if we adopt the program,
Uh-huh.
we've already, and I don't want to speak to who these people are. One of the things we can do is meet in an executive session to discuss our safety plans. So we can do that out of the public view, and talk about who those folks are. We have folks in place now that can go ahead and be either quickly certified or recertified, and that even in lieu before anybody else takes a course.
How do we go about selecting? I mean, is there a selection process, or is there, hey, I want to be a guardian?
So there's a whole selection process that the state mandates. Like, so the first thing that they, and this is done through the sheriff's office, they would have to do a psych evaluation, drug screen, and this is all on those pages.
Yeah, I'm just saying, how do you pick people?
Do we?
I mean, do we pick people, or do they just say, hey, I want Kyle to be here?
I think the initial thing would be is we've got to screen, find out who would be interested.
But you just set a poll to.
You don't want to make somebody.
You can't make it, anybody can.
So Rob, how did it work at Frank?
We would put it out. Our first year, we did support staff and admin. And we took those volunteers, that pool, and then we vetted that pool prior to giving those names to the sheriff's office. So myself, superintendent, and the principal would sit down and vet the group that volunteered. We went through the whole process with them when we sent out the initial email saying you can volunteer for this program. You will be vetted prior to going to the sheriff's office. Once you go to the sheriff's office, these are the steps that you'll take going through them, psychological, blah, 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 blah. So we probably had 10 the first time going through. We vetted those 10, and out of that 10, there were 4 that went through. And those 4 went through, and we ended up losing 1 in firearms training, which made it through. And so we had 3 in the initial class. And I think there were
So you kind of did it by group, like a like you said, administrative staff, and then you went to your teachers,
Then we went to our teachers for our third year.
you faced
We faced it.
How, this is a question. How many are we looking at maybe having in each school? I told, will we have 3 guardians down there, or we would have 3 at the high school and 3 in the hospital? Or have we come up with any? And I know we probably need to come up with numbers.
I guess it just depends on how we wanna do if we do it like Franklin did it, and who is able to make it through the process. I don't think we can have an exact number.
Now,
And then funding is gonna be a big thing too, I mean.
in
You
the
have 30
selection,
people on it, you're talking about ammunition,
yeah,
30 firearms, 30 holsters.
I was thinking, James, 2 to 3 at each school possibly. One thing, like at the high school, you know, you kind of think of the layout of the high school, you got somebody in the front, you got SRO office there, and you got, Dustin and I talked, the high school layout's just a little bit of a challenge, but if you could have some people on each wing, one going towards the gymnasium, one going down towards our JROTC building, those kind of things, I think it gives you some people and some strategic things. That, I want to really work with the sheriff's office, and I'll give you this story. I want them, you know, we can come up with some names and vetting and all that, but I really want to do it working with them. And me and the sheriff was talking, you know, there may be something we don't know about from the school perspective. And we're thinking, hey, this person's really good. And I deal sometimes with this at church for positions and stuff, and it may be somebody I'm counseling with, that maybe they're not ready for that leadership position that year, and because I know there's some things kind of going on with family or whatever, and then, you know, but nobody else knows that, so we have in the church, we have what's called a nominating committee, and they'll try to find leaders that plug holes and different things, and sometimes they'll run that list by me, and I'll go, maybe not now on this one. You know, and it's not a no, but it's probably maybe not this year, because some things I know, there may be, you know, we feel good about a name, that Dustin went out to the house and, you know, kind of squelched maybe a little domestic issue. It didn't go nowhere, but he goes there and provides counsel and leadership, has a word of prayer with them. But then we come and say, hey, Dustin, about this one, and Dustin goes, maybe not now. You see what I'm saying? I want them to feel good, because they're seeing people on the side, maybe we're not exposed to. And I trust their judgment. They may not see something we see on the school side, you know, so
let's
that's.
say we open this thing up to, like Rob said, admin staff and support staff. Are we gonna let them submit an application? Or reading this and say people can apply? for
How do
this?
they do that?
Always with the email. Just reply to an email that we went through, but when they applied, we filled out a sheriff's application.
And then it go,
They would come to us and we
We all
go through the
do.
process of.
and of course, I guess if we did it first, we could probably call some that we may know. And then it would go to them, and they would, I guess, do the side counseling and all the other training. And if we passed all that, then they could possibly be a guardian. Then the next round, if there is a next round, then we have teachers submit application for.
If there was a need, if there was a need.
If there was a need. So,
At any time, I mean, you can't make anybody do it.
no,
Not a soul.
Anybody's gotta do it.
Not a soul.
At any time, if you do see something, you, Dusty, or one of the board, or Ricky, or anybody sees anything, I mean, who's that person we're gonna go to and say, hey, I don't know, this person right here, about, take it, you know, we're just talking about who, we go to you, Dusty, if they've applied for it or whatever. Something just.
I think the vetting has to be phenomenal.
Okay.
I think we have, you know, obviously, the psychological evaluation, the training is a vetting, part of the vetting, right? Can they actually do what's required of them, meet those minimum standards, the shooting stuff and all that. but the big thing is making sure that we feel good about it. You may have some people who just says, I want to do it, and you're going, you know, you're not keeping your classroom locked. And we didn't, maybe we didn't, that maybe Rick comes back and says, well, you know, that one right there, that's my worst offender right there. You know, boom, that right there, and see, I wouldn't maybe know that, but he is, and they wouldn't know it, but he does. And then vice versa, there's all kinds of situations. So I just think we have to vet real carefully. Somebody may get feelings hurt. Well, I really wanted to do that, you know. Then it opens up the door for accusations of maybe discrimination, you look fair, it's political, and there's always gonna be that element of it. But I think we just have to make a decision based on who we think's a fit. I don't know, it ain't about who's the best, it's who we feel like's more of a fit for what we're doing. I think a lot of it has to do with what they do, their availability, maybe even placement around the campus, you know? I think that has a lot to do with it as well.
Well, I think you're gonna have to settle that somewhere in application process. I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe you probably have quite a few that will work through. Got 75 apply for it. If you got 10.
But now the training may
Weed out.
weed out a bunch, because you're basically looking at, more, 2 months of training?
Well, it would be 132 hours, it would be 8 weeks.
That was-
They would pay for this
And
training.
then-
Question, how-
So the training, the way I understand
Grant
it,
takes for it.
the training, there's only,
No,
The sheriff's office will pay our people to go to the training?
the grant takes for it, from what I understand.
Right, pays for the training, so
pays for the training, there's no salary incentive.
Yeah,
You get you get
You
$500.
get $500 initially from the state, but other than that, there's no, I mean, this is 8 weeks of your free time and the hot sun with us.
You say free time, now is, we say Tim's gonna carry, he's gonna be one of our guardians.
That's him,
high
I
school.
know, Tim's off.
But if we, say we're gonna send him to training and he's got to do the 2 weeks training, he's gonna expect to pay for that probably.
Yeah, we gonna get,
Are we gonna pay for
Yeah, we
it,
didn't.
or is the grant gonna pay for it?
Franklin, yeah, we got paid by Franklin County School, we got our salary. Because in the summer months, you're not gonna fire, from 12 to 4 o'clock, it's just too hot outside. So we'd always go in the morning or late afternoon and get our rounds downrange. And then the other times we're in our office, we'll just be back out the range and finish our fire.
And that's why you start with the admin and notes, because they're here 12 months out of the year, and you can do that some in the summer. Teachers is gonna be more of a challenge. Now, some of them are off in the summer, but a lot of them work too, so I mean, you almost have to do this training pretty much in the summer as much as you can,
And that's what I'm, kind of thinking. If we go through the program, adding people, we got enough admin people to do it, then you're gonna have to probably use teachers. And if you get them, they get involved in it, then they gonna say they probably won't get paid for their time up
for
And then-
time for the training.
there. Yeah,
Well, and I think that's what Rob's saying, if we're doing it during
during the summer,
the summer, they're already getting paid.
they are a math teacher down there, science teacher said they off the summer, but then they turn the application in for, to be in this.
Yeah.
And then they pass the psychological evaluation, whatever standard y'all said.
Yeah.
Then they got to go to training, and then who's gonna pay their salary? Or,
travel or per diem or
right, are
anything
we gonna
else.
furnish transportation to a firing range? I mean, all.
So different, they do it differently. I know in Bay County, they pay for the travel and for them and all that, just for the training, but they don't get paid the salary.
They don't get a salary. for
They do
doing it.
not
They
get
just
salary
that
while they're out there,
1.5.
not
Diem,
paid
yeah,
while
they
they're
get travel.
And that's how they,
But do you know if they pull that probably out of the grant?
I'm not, no, I think that was done strictly
Through the
by the
school.
superintendent and the school.
And Rob, you said Franklin County did it through the school,
But they were getting paid.
Well, we were already.
They were 12 months
administrators.
Did y'all have any teachers doing down there?
No, when I left, we had 9, and they were all support staff at your AD, all 12-month employees, basically were. So we didn't have any we had some that volunteered, but they just make it through that process.
Another thing, we know the initial training, what it takes. What about yearly retraining? Cause yeah, recertification, so you know they gotta go back to the firing range, kind of maintain. I want to, but I don't want to.
So the state mandates, it's the same requirements as us, which is, every 6 months, that's the same thing, they have to.
Page
State
20,
mandate.
page 20 addresses recertification, annual basis. For the annual research.
Then the recertification requirement determined by the sheriff's office. For the initial certification in conjunction with the department law. Something changes with you, it changes then, correct?
Yes.
And how that's gonna work.
Are we asking all that questions, Rob?
Yeah, you are, absolutely.
I mean, you've been through this, so, you know, I know you went through with the board down there and.
I had the same question.
They did.
Same question.
And this is, that's good about the reimbursement, because we need to understand, you know, if they're not a 12-month employee and teachers do, you know, do this, that can cost us some budget. So we need to be prepared for that, and
And always remember this, anything to do with teachers will be a union issue.
you know, it's not.
Well, I mean, if you. That's kind of, you should watch it, because if you've got a guardian, you don't know nobody that they are, so how could they do that? That would seem to me, that would eliminate.
Right, and right.
We got it.
It's voluntary, so if you volunteer to do something, going into it, knowing that you may or may not be reimbursed, how could you challenge that? Okay.
So kind of, for the program, and some reading of y'all, if the incident was to happen at a school, if you, a guardian, you're supposed to immediately respond to that. If you a teacher with a class full of kids, how can you do that? That kind of eliminates
Or are you
teachers.
supposed to?
And
Your first responsibility as a teacher is the kids.
protection.
You have to be accountable for the kids. You cannot respond to any other part of the school unless you have somebody responsible for those kids.
Yeah.
So the only way
So
you would
a
be
teacher,
utilized.
in my, this is personal opinion and what I see in my eyes, you're especially on the initial, until we see how this thing goes and how it plays out, whatever. If you train a bunch of teachers, you're wasting your money, you're wasting your time. If something happens, the only way that teacher would be in the play is if somebody came into their classroom.
And that's why
Go
we waited.
to, because doors are locked.
There you go.
That's why we waited till year 3 to open it up to teachers. We wanted to first see if we can sustain the program. And do we have enough applicants for support staff and admin to have enough bodies for what we wanted? We were still short a little bit, so we opened it up to teachers. Like I said, the only teacher, there's 2 teachers that went through it. There was the dean and the AD was 12-month employee, so that kind of helped us. So the only teacher that we did was the dean, the teacher.
Now, probably is, do we have enough employees in each school side for just admin people? Basically.
You don't have admin, but you have admin and support staff.
Yeah, well, that's right.
Yeah, we do. I think personally, I think we'll be good. Just from talking to people, I think we had it. I don't mean to make it through it. I mean, you know, again, scenarios happen, we have no on this one. Or we might put them at the bottom of the list just because of things, but I think we personally do. I really do.
And who does the school board approve the policy for having guardians? Do we have a policy? We got to approve.
So,
I was just gonna say, it says, it's pretty simple what the statute says, essentially just a majority vote, that's all your share.
So we don't have nothing to do with any policies or anything after that?
That's entirely in charge of screening, training, evaluating, and getting certifications and all that stuff.
Okay, and there's this
What
question.
about a procedure though? Maybe not a policy,
Yeah.
Jones?
Yes. Let me ask you this, if us as a school board, and I think the sheriff worked with us 100%, I believe he will. If we say we want concealed carry in all of our schools, we're going to want them sheriff. It's all right. If we say that, then is the sheriff's office going, is that how you're going to train the people, how you're going to implement it?
Absolutely. And we would prefer to consider.
and I agree with that too. I think, and again, the only person I'm okay with it, and I would leave it to his discretion would be Ricky.
Yeah.
And we've had someone in that role before who did open carry and went to all the schools and, you know,
But
you don't have to wear a badge. I mean, it'll be obvious he is an officer.
I'm good with that. I guess if we have to trickle down to teachers, and I don't think we want, all the teachers walking around with a 9mm strapped to the side, you know?
I hate that optic. I hate the way that looks.
That's what I'm saying, it don't look good.
But I think if we meet an executive session with Ricky, with the sheriff's office, we go over safety plans, those kind of things, that we identify those folks. I don't want anybody to know who they are. You know, because if you know, as opposed to doing a meeting and say, okay, our guardians at the school is Coach Dusty and Coach Bobby and Coach Jason, and then people hear that, say, okay, now there's my, if I make a plan, I know I gotta take out first. You know, and I'll figure out where Bobby's teaching, where Dusty's teaching, where Jason's teaching, and then we'll just, you know.
Okay, another question. I got a whole list of questions.
Good, that's why we do, that's why we're here.
I used to work in prison, so Ricky understands that, I think. Type of weapon, I think y'all said probably 9.
So we carry a 9mm, that's probably what we would do, just so we're not changing ammunition on how you train, if they're trained on belts, we just do it.
Is that what you carry down there, Rob?
Correct.
How many clips? Or how many, do you just have a clip in the firearm? Do you have an extra clip?
We carry anywhere from 2 to 3 extra.
That I've seen.
Is that something that y'all put on your vest, or you carry 2 to 3 on you at all times?
And that's the weapon system that the 43 is. It's a little bit smaller magazine.
How many magazines?
How many rounds?
9, 8 of them?
That they'll.
I think it's 12.
12.
Yeah, 12. Well,
12 rounds, the 43X, which is easier to see, it's not.
that's what y'all purchased for.
So that's what Franklin carries, for concealed firearm, it's probably one of the best, yes.
Okay, y'all purchased the thing, let's say 2 mags. Weapon inspections. The person that carries, who's gonna do the weapon inspections for these?
That would be our firearms instructors, which is me and Sidney Johnson.
And how often would y'all do these?
So depending on what we can do with the grant, our deputies shoot twice a week. One's a qualification, one's a tactical shoot. I would prefer guardians to do the same thing that our deputies do. So it'll be twice a year. If the grant, the money, the funding allows.
Another question I've got. If it's our school board policy for this county, I didn't see it that we're required that we may offer that to the private schools in this county to come be part of that. I don't know. We got, what, one private school in the county, may or may not be interested in participating in that. I don't think they have no SRO with that.
I'm not aware, but yes, they, charter schools and private schools can be invited to participate.
If they're interested.
If they're interested.
Correct. We should, if for some reason our board should not do, or a charter school could, or
Right.
should do it. We got that. Ammo type is gonna furnish armor piercing ammo. So if I think I'm gonna go in and shoot up the school, I'm gonna probably have me a vest on too. Yeah.
So that's something that we will have to talk about. We'll have to talk to Rob because difference in ammunition.
Yeah.
Ball ammunition, it holds its form, as you know, I mean, corrections, those, ball ammunition holds its form, it can go through walls. So if we go through a block wall. You don't want somebody to fire.
Right.
And maybe miss it, and then you got to ramble the wall. Me personally, you carry what we carry on the road, which is hollow points, which is meant to stop threat. And not necessarily.
From an armor standpoint, I was on armor for 20-some years, at the prison, for the prison. We did a lot of testing and stuff like that, and then closed in areas like this, we used 115 grain HPs. That way, if you were shooting, all our schools are block ball and stuff, if you were shooting, you didn't have to worry about the next classroom, everything was contained in one classroom. It was the same thing if we had to go inside a unit inside a prison, you didn't have to worry about shooting outside the prison by using that type of ammunition, so I think something like that probably would. Yeah.
What about this, what about the personal?
Y'all do level 2 or level 3 down in Franklin? Level 2. So, and that's something that once the program, once we get started, we can discuss level 2, level 3. Oh yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, our deputies, we went to level 3 because the majority of the shootings that we're seeing, even with law enforcement, not just in schools, people start to use rifles, they're not using pistols. So that.
I'm assuming the level 3 are more sturdier.
Yeah.
So those are being incorporated into the grant budget already, what you guys, will we see your budget before it's submitted? Will any of us see that? I mean.
Well, we're already start working on it and stuff with Fred. So Bobby's already contacted the guy that we go through for guns and vests and everything, and there's already put together quotes, so we can get that to you.
I mean, I think just being a part, we have to answer to our community. Our community's asking questions. How much money are we talking about? Well, and you're gonna have people say, well, how much money's coming down for ammo? And I know that sounds to some people's like, just transparency.
So I can answer part of that. So me and Ricky met with them and I also talked to Brett. One of the things about it is a DOE grant, so we know what that looks like. And we'll do a share file on that. So we're gonna work with them at the writing of the grant. Because it's our format, Brett doesn't work with DOE, but we do, and we know kind of how, we know who it goes to, so we're gonna work with them in the writing of the grant. They'll know more about what it needs to say, and we'll know about where to put it. And so it'll be just like those ESSER grants that y'all get and everything, it's gonna have the amount that will be totally, commendable. You know, if we see, okay, we've got some leftover money here, we'll go just like what Mandy and Gay has done for, you know, or Melanie will go and say, okay, we want to transfer $10,000 over here for the level 3 best or whatever. We can do all of that. And you have to get it approved, DOE's gonna approve it and all that stuff. So that'll help them. But it'll help us as well. We know the format, they know what it needs to say per se, but we'll work with it.
But this is not a reimbursable grant like most of our grants are. This is actually gonna come down, they'll get the money then.
It depends on when you start it. It will be reimbursable early on. Before you get it, you can be reimbursed. I think, remind me, if you told me Franklin County has some openings for something they can use, what would you tell me?
They had 3 openings. They had three openings for training.
Yeah.
So we gonna see 3 people down there full training.
And when is that? When is that?
It's on the second.
He didn't tell me anything exactly.
I think it was
This month, next month.
This summer.
Oh, we have to pay for it.
He would have.
We'd have to
I think it's, okay, so what I understand, I think what it'd be, so they would pay for it, but we would have to reimburse Franklin County for that when we got our grant. I think that's what the sheriff said, that they would offer those positions to us because they have them open, so they would pay, they'll use their grant money and we'll reimburse them of our grant.
So the grant, does the grant, is it so much per school per year or additionally?
For the district,
Training. Or does it matter how many applicants you have or how many you pick that are gonna go through the training? So if you pick 2 or 10, is the grant money still the same?
It's a set grant. We
It's the
won't
same
know,
amount of
we
money.
won't know what the set grant is, and it's not a grant to Liberty County School System. When all the paperwork comes out, it
Just to the
will
sheriff.
say nothing about Liberty County School System, it'll say Liberty County Sheriff Department. They set forth $100,000 startup grant for each district in the state of Florida. A lot of the districts have already started the program, and they're still getting the $100,000 every year to continue their program.
Okay, you just said a keyword that was moving in, the startup. So this grant, now I'm going to be very optimistic that this is money that's gonna continue. So we start this program, we get this money, we get granted, Sheriff's Office, we're doing great.
We can't.
I'm gonna be optimistic too.
I'm gonna tell you that since it started, back when because I think Rob's class was one of the first ones that started the Guardian program 4 years now, Rob, 5 years now, I think 5 years ago. The grant just came out in July, $100,000 every year. They've had, right now, I think the lady, I talked to the grant lady at the training last week. She said right now, because a lot of the schools are not taking, the districts are not taking advantage of the program and not starting the program. There's like $3.5 million still sitting in the fund that can be doled out to the districts. She even told me that I got her name or contact information off. We had any questions or whatever. She said it's $100,000. She didn't know how big our district was, and I didn't tell her how big our district was. Didn't tell her how many we wanted. I was just asking general questions. She said if the $100,000 was not enough to get the first phase of the program done this year that we wanted to get done, then give her a call. She would send us a submittal, and we could actually get more money because the chief of Office of Safe Schools and the governor want to see Guardian programs in every district in the state of Florida. That is important. So they're putting plenty of money out there to do it. Now, as far as the money drying up, you know, as well as I do, it's ESSER and everything else. We can't guarantee how much we're gonna get or if we're gonna get or nothing else. We all sit around, you know, hoping that we're gonna get more than we did last year, or at least what we got. I can't tell you that, and they couldn't tell you that. I can tell you, as long as we got Governor DeSantis,
Okay,
we'll get it every year.
okay, I'll take your cue right there because Governor DeSantis, it will run again and hopefully he will get it.
Yeah.
what happens when this governor leaves us and we get another governor? Here's where I'm going. I think it's a great program. I'm fully in support of it. But I want us to look the long road. I want us to go the long road on this. What if, and let's all keep that in the back of our minds and have it in our plan. What if that funding does not get approved 8 years down the road? We're not gonna be in any better shape 8 years down the road than we're gonna probably be a lot worse off. I mean, that's the way the world is turning right now. So let's look long-term. Let's think long-term, not just the here and now, not just when we've got the most wonderful governor in the world, because he may not be here. So I think that we just need to be planning for that. How are we going to continue this program if there is no funding to support it?
So the short answer for that is actually, this came about during Rick Scott administration. I believe he was governor during Parkland. And it was actually a sunset that date on the Stoneman, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Act, or whatever they call it. Governor DeSantis had a press conference last week, obviously, 2 weeks ago, to renew that. So that guarantees some funding that can go past his administration. I think the second thing that's really in our favor, regardless if you get a bad governor, which I hope not, unlike you, I hope we don't, but elections have consequences. We see that nationally. We see it on every level, local, state, and federal government. You got a really heavy Republican conservative legislature who controls the purse strings. Now we know that there's opportunities for them to veto things, or I'm sorry, to get vetoed, but then there's also instances where they can override a governor's veto on that. I'm fairly confident the money will be there. The good thing is if we can establish a nucleus of people to do that, then the cost for them the next year is not there. It's just basically a recertification. Again, leaves it up to the sheriff to do. For the sheriff's office to say, okay, let's just say, just for numbers sake, those 10 that did, can we do that next year? We get clearance, we clear for them, they do it again. Well, they won't have to go through all the training. They won't need another gun, won't need another vest, won't need, those kind of things. Hopefully no ammo. I hope we can still use the same ammo. I don't know what the shelf life is on all that, but it should severely reduce the amount of money. And at the end of the day, if we've got that nucleus, I think we need to, again, look ahead and be planning on, do we need to have some waiting in the wings? We see some people getting ready to retire, go ahead and use some of, apply for that money. I think we're going to be fine once we get the initial cost out of the way. I think it'll be something very manageable, and I don't think it was ever meant to be something that's going to be a money drain thing on the legislature. They're still putting money in school hardening. They're still trying to make sure schools are secure and put money in, Safer Watch and some of those other things to keep schools safe. Communication systems and stuff have been very good at that. But I think this program is kind of, it's kind of like they make that initial investment in that school district, give them all $500, which is nice, but then all of a sudden you get that training and then you're kind of set until you disqualify yourself for some reason, or you say I don't want to do it anymore, But I do believe you need to have. I think long term you do need to have plans for that. And then let's use that scenario. What if the funding does cut off? Then I think that's where we as a board will have to come together and say we're going to take $5,000 out of general fund to go train some more guardians this year. We can budget for that.
I think we just need to be realistic about that.
Yeah.
I think we need to look long term. That's my goal. This is great. It's a wonderful program. What's the long term plan?
And your reoccurring cost is gonna be about 100 rounds of ammunition per individual that we train. If you don't have the psychological evaluations, you're gonna have to pay for it. They'll already have the simulators involved, the training tools involved. That's what the big thing is to get it up and going. But your reoccurring, 100, 200 rounds a year per person that you got, which right now is pretty expensive with the price of ammunition. But you don't have all the purchasing of the guns and the guns and the holsters and the vests, and all that
Who
stuff.
does the safety inspections of the guns? I'm assuming the sheriff's office. I mean,
And
they
I
go
was,
look at them,
I-
make sure.
I had been asked a question earlier today, and I really didn't know how to answer it, so I was going, y'all, is there some way, 6 months, we only gonna qualify every 6 months? That's a long time for somebody to have something without somebody looking at it, especially when it's a person that's not law enforcement minded like some of us are. Is there some way that your SROs in your school could periodically, once a week, whatever, once a month, whatever we come up with, once a day, I don't care, say, hey, you got all your equipment?
And we can do that. This is just what the state requires.
Right, I know,
So we
You can add on, you can add to it.
We can do it every day.
But I would just feel more comfortable if, if we got a normal Joe Blow that stuck the gun inside the school, I don't want us to be issuing him a firearm with 3 magazines and 75 bullets, and then a month later, you go check him and he's got 2 magazines and he's down to 1 .5 bullet because he's lost all the bullets or whatever.
And there are bullets laying around in the classroom.
Yeah,
that
you
you
know, I
played
mean,
with.
I went to load my gun, I dropped it.
And it happens, they get complaints.
Right.
So, I mean, inspections like that we do with our guys, quarterly.
We do quarterly inspections on all of them.
Right. And I mean, I just would feel better if we
That's a
had
good
somebody, and
standard.
I think the SROs that we have will do a great job and be tactful enough to be able to do it to where we would know that people still have what they're supposed to have, and ain't laying around somewhere where it don't need.
Do they take their guns home with them?
Yeah.
Even on weekends and?
This issue to them.
They got these screens.
That's where your socket valve and all that.
I mean,
The maturity level, they're not gonna be.
Everybody would have a concealed carry. Everyone has to have a concealed carry.
Yeah.
A guardian, so, and they get we got a volunteer sheriff's department badge through them saying that, hey, we're a guardian. So we get pulled, saying, well,
Well, they've already got it concealed carry.
that's even better.
they still have to go
have
through
to
the
work.
So I have,
I don't want training, but like, if you've already got your concealed carry,
That's,
that's just a plus.
yeah, plus.
I can do that, re-up it or anything for this.
so I've got a question. So, if I'm a guardian, I've been issued by the Liberty County Sheriff's Office a firearm, and I'm concealed carry. Am I restricted? For example, I go, those of us who are concealed carry, you go theater, and you have it. Am I prohibited from taking that weapon with me as concealed carry for my own personal protection?
So the way I
Or do I need to put that somewhere and then use my own?
it's gonna be up to us and how we do the policy, but I would suggest when I look at other agencies and their policies, that they are strictly at the school.
At right.
They are not a law enforcement officer, that's known, it's in the policy that they'll have to sign for.
I understand that worst case scenario, I'm in a theater, somebody comes in, I'm concealed carry, I pull out, you find out that's a Liberty County Sheriff's Office, and I'm in Lee County Theater.
And that's something that we would have to put on policy.
Yeah.
So even though you carry them home,
If for job
It's
related.
just for your job related purposes.
You are not there to pull you on.
Just like if there was an incident that happened out on the street, they are not to take law enforcement action, they're not a law enforcement officer.
That's right.
they'll receive all that.
Could the
And that would be
guardian,
part of that would be, I've looked at all these different policies and different agencies, that's one of the first things that put in here.
could the guardian like go to the football game out there with the
Yes.
sheriff department?
So he's a guardian at all schools.
That would be
That
considered.
would be considered.
That would be, have to be a policy.
Yes.
I have another question I got. Say we go concealed carry. And the governor signs the open carry in the state of Florida. Is that gonna change what we do in the school?
That's gonna be up to us, because then through the program, you can open carry
Right,
if you want to now, it says that, but
well,
we we are suggesting,
If Rob's
Does
got,
that change your mind?
if he's got a
it would
concealed
not
carry,
change my mind.
and he says, I'm tired of wearing this thing where people can't see it, and I can open carry now, I'm gonna open carry mine.
If the sheriff tells him not to.
In the policy, we would have that strictly written, like that you are only to consider carry a concealed weapon.
My opinion of the guardians is like, superintendent was saying, is for them to be unknown, for nobody to know who they are.
Right.
And that way, if they're strategically placed in these schools, in certain areas, the high school, for example, in the back corner where the baseball field is, you know, nobody knows who that person is. You got a active shooter trying to get in the back door, if they be locked, but if it's not, gets in, they don't know who or what's carrying a gun in there. And that person can, you know, return fire or whatever they have to do to stop the threat. That's our opinion of it. That's why we would suggest staying concealed.
Yeah.
Let the government take the laws.
That's what I would feel like. I mean, this, any more questions?
I think it needs to be simplified, and be, process. More steps, getting something where there were problems. I mean, I'm all for it. So.
Who's gonna be our advisory person to work with them? Like, when they say, do you want concealed versus, I mean, we've seen them talk about it, probably think that all dead, but would that be you? Would that be Ricky? I mean, like an advisory person to work with the sheriff's office. You said Brett's working with the grants and.
Yes. We don't have an executive. I'm thinking an executive meeting.
So this would be the next step. This would be the next step. If y'all, and I will talk to y'all again individually, and you know, if I want there to be 5 of. I'm begging for there to be a unanimous vote on this. At that point, if y'all say yes, we'll, you know, I'll get Renee to put that as an agenda item. We'll pass that. Then we'll start some processes on how to pick that, work on budget, work on all that kind of stuff. But when we get down to the nuts and bolts of it, you know, as far as that being a part of the safety plan, that part we'll do in executive session. So obviously Ricky's gonna, he'll be our main point person from the district office, but you know, my hands are on a little bit of everything, obviously, because that's my job. So I'll be working close beside him. And we went up there together, you know, to talk to the sheriff and talk to Bobby and Dustin, all of them, chat about the program, you know, so. But Ricky will be our chief point person on day-to-day operation of safety.
I got one thing, what you got?
I'm just gonna say that, you know, on this program with these guardians and stuff, I talked to several police departments, because some of these districts are big enough, they have their full 300-person police department just for the school.
Jackson County.
Dade County right now has 435 officers just in their school police department, not counting the regular police department. But they still do the guardian program. They got 150 something guardians plus the 400 officers down there in Dade County. So, but anyway, they all expressed that this is the sheriff's office deal. If the sheriff's office sees something going on or is reported something about a guardian, they have the authority to pull that guardian's certification at any time. So, you know, if we go through and we look and we say, you know, this person, you know, they got the gun hanging out or poked in their pocket or ain't doing, or if I walk through and I don't think they're doing what they need to be doing, I can go consult with the sheriff's department. And if we come to the conclusion that that person don't need to be a guardian, they have the power to pull their certification at any time. So it's a checks and balance. You know, we might hit it wrong the first time when we hit a few people. They might make it through the class, but that don't mean they're gonna stay in their role as a guardian if we don't think they're safe around kids. I'm never, ever gonna let a person walk around school and act in any kind of way that I feel unsafe towards any kid in this district. I'll go to them and I'll be the butt, I promise you, I don't care. And I'll say, this one here don't need to be carrying a gun, I think we pull them, and we'll pull them. If they got something to say, they can come see me, I'll stand up to anybody around. Because ultimately, the safety in school is the most important thing.
That's right.
And that's the reason I know we got the right guy right there. But I'm gonna tell you something, from me to you, to Ricky, to Rob, all y'all. I am so glad to see a partnership, this partnership that we have with this board and this administration and our sheriff and our sheriff's office. I feel really good about it. I feel like we're getting some ground to cheer. We're starting to move some barriers down that have been in the past that we've not been able to get. And I appreciate you guys. Y'all have been at these meetings, you have been present, and we appreciate you, and we want you here. We want you in the weeds with us, because this is our future. These are our babies. And I don't think I've met one person from Liberty County Sheriff's Department that has never felt that same way. So this is our kids, not just your kid or kid, it's our kids. And I love every single one of them. And I just thank y'all for being so open and just bringing stuff to us constantly and working with us. And this partnership is just, it's critical. And we need it. Thank you.
They got children in, like you say, they got babies in the system. They have a vested interest beyond their oath. They have children that are students, and so they know the importance of that for their own children. I agree. 100% echo that. Amen. It's good stuff.
I'd like to say that we got some good questions, good answers. I think it's a good program. And I'd like to ask Mr. Tim and Mr. Rob, and Mr. McCurry. I'm going to talk about one-on-one, but I have lots of feelings about the program.
I'm for it. I would want to be,
Y'all win it every day, you know?
Set up as part of it.
I would want to be one.
Would want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna run to wherever it's happening anyway. I'm going, with or without a gun. I'd sure like to have a gun.
Did they make left-handed pistols?
I'm right. I shoot right here.
Oh, do you shoot right there?
Yeah, I would want to, Mike.
Yeah, the program is one of the better ones. I've been in military law enforcement for 17 years and went through every program you could think of. What they are going to put the Guardians through in the amount of time is some of the best training that I've been through. Active shooter, they say that the average is 3 minutes. And some of our road deputies may be on the other side of the county. These guys are just right uptown, but it's going to take them a good minute and a half to get to me and my kids. So it's always on my bed. It's always better to have, more guns on target, so to speak. So it's a phenomenal program. I think it's going to keep our kids safe for a long time. So I'm all for it.
And in sharing that, and I appreciate that. Rob, Rob's been through it, so he knows the value of it. The last two issues at schools, one was in Gaston, Alabama in the summer, which prompted make sure we had this. And again, thank the sheriff's office, Jody alluded to that partnership of, hey, we got to do something, and we need to do it now to have those off duty. So if y'all go to the schools this summer, you see those guys are off duty and they're helping us. Thank them, because they might have just come off of the shift and they're go home and sleep a little bit, come in, on a day off. They're doing it on days off. So, Gas, Alabama had a summer program at a school. From what I'm saying, y'all correct me if I'm wrong. A armed guy going to the doors, they're locked, another reason to have locked doors. He's going around and he's trying to find an opening, and an off-duty officer takes him out. And rightfully so. And then the other one was a couple weeks ago, Dallas, Texas. Same kind of situation, summer program, and no kids were hurt, no staff were hurt, but the perpetrator was taken out, and that's what you get. So I think that's the kind of examples we're talking about, where I guarantee if there's an issue at school, those two right there are going to bust their rear ends to get there, along with the sheriff at the Calvary, but Rob's already there. Rob's already there, you know, and that's the response time, again, on those things like that. You got somebody in place, so, and I appreciate Tim's, you know, hey, I'm gonna do that, that's a good thing, I do too. So,
Well, we got to impress upon our staff that the key, and you spoke about it, the gun can go into that door and it'll be locked.
Yep.
That prevented a lot. That's what stops.
Save lives.
Save lives. And the teachers and staff need to understand that.
for their safety,
For their sake.
and the kids,
Right.
but for their own. You know.
So,
There's always adults get shot in these things too. It's all, you know, God forbid anybody, but every one of these, always kids, it's always staff members.
and you know, they say, well, it's, security is not convenient. Nobody. I lived by that for 26 years while I worked at the prison. It's not convenient. You hate it, but I'm here today because of security.
That's right.
So, and you know, it's hard for somebody out here that ain't never been faced with one of that to say, I'm not that door, I'm gonna put a little magnet up here at the top to keep the propped up just enough where the kids can go in and out. It looks locked, you look down the hallway, it looks locked, but it ain't really locked.
I think a lot of that, once they start doing it, it's like anything else, once they get the routine,
Well,
not be as aggravating for them, but they've got to be. Instead of say this, they've got to be forced to, you know.
but that's what Joe said, the administrative leadership side will handle that part. And then I'll be very matter of fact about it. This is a directive, this is what you're gonna do. If you can't do it, you might find another job, but we're gonna protect everybody. That part can happen, but the real thing, James, I think what you do is that I can just put the magnet up here, or I can prop the door, that whole thing, is that it's never gonna happen here. That little Sandy Hook kindergarten class, if you go read that story, I promise, everybody just run a week. If you hadn't, even if you knew about it, go back and read it. Everyone, those kindergartners lost their life. And there was just nobody there to defend them, and that was so preventable. But that whole Sandy Hook community, where that school was, rural. Most of these places are rural.
Yeah.
They're rural, you know, so let's, we never want to get to the point where say, oh, it ain't never happen in the county. Hey, there's a lot of things can happen anytime, anywhere with people. I will tell you, and these guys know, Ricky knows, we go through a lot of threat assessments with kids who say things. And you have to take those things serious. Some of those profiles of some of the kids that we have, it's not a huge majority. Fit some of the profiles that they see in the criminal world and what you see in some of the, loners, horrible family life, access to weaponry, those kind of things. We got to keep our head on the swivel. We have got to do our best. And if we don't, then Liberty County just gets people in here. That's what I feel. I believe everybody, what Jody said, we've got a partnership. There ain't nobody trying to one up nobody. We all wear the same jersey right now. We all got the garnet and gold, the blue and the white on to make sure these schools are protected.
Any other questions on it? On to item B, dress code.
That's me.
Understood.
Okay, so
uniform.
okay. Does anybody need a quick break? Y'all need a bathroom break?
We have school uniform, we wouldn't have that.
You're exactly right. Exactly right.
And a lot of parents would appreciate it.
I've got about 6:45. Do y'all need a quick 2-minute break?
Yeah, get.
I can.
How long this discussion gonna last?
Tim's got all kinds of stuff here. 10 minutes. I don't think it's better than, I need to run this. Okay, so I asked him to be here to represent the high school. Him and Eric had talked to me, they come up here and talk about dress code issues. Dress code was an issue when we were in school. What can we wear, what can't we wear? You push on one. I remember sometime around our 9th or 10th grade year, we were able to wear shorts. That was a big deal, but it was 2 or 3 inches above the knee. And, I remember going out and, it looked like all us guys wearing a bunch of pool locks, you know, around campus. But there was about a couple brands that you could get, the longer ones. Back in the 80s, it was all about short, even for the basketball short. All that being said, it is a discipline issue at the high school. You've got multiple things. They came in with a couple things, and again, this is just a discussion. I have talked with a few of y'all individually about this. It will be one of those things that people will get on both sides of it. You know, you have some that are real adamant for it, and some that want to fight you, be against it. Now, we don't want to cause division in the community, but there's some problems at the high school. I'll let Tim kind of describe what the issue is, what the problem is, what the current state, and he give y'all some handouts, kind of a possible solution to that. So, Mr. Davis.
So before the teacher left there, did exit everything wrong, and one of the questions was, what are some of the things you think we can improve the school? And 10, you can see where I highlighted all of the 10 instances where the teachers need to address that as one of the major issues that they felt that we had. And you can see in the handout that I gave you, kind of how this is last year's dress code, what was in force last year. What I have highlighted were the problem areas. The first one there, you see the clothing cannot be shorter than 5 inches, so I'm not short, skirt. Well, with the boys, that was what they probably chose, right? The fishing shorts kind of thing. And so it was right at 5 inches. And what they would do is they kind of pull them down, they wear their shirt out like I have now, and they pull the pants down so that when they were sent up to the office, we put the ruler on the measure tape on, it's 55 inches, but we'd see them 2 years later, they hadn't pulled back up, and I mean, they're just way up here. So what we're suggesting for this year is to go to the 3 inch above the knee, which is gonna eliminate, you can't pull them down that low. That's right. So we think that will eliminate and resolve that issue. We can do that. The other thing is something that, you know, Jody and I were discussing in the break there, the tights, the Band-Aid kind of thing. Last year, as you can see, we allowed it if they were shirts that covered the midsection. Got to where that was not happening. And then and we're good. We have some work to do as far as the teachers being consistent, because you have some teachers that you get by, and then you have other teachers like Jennifer and Christy Clark who they're going to see it every time. So if you may have one student that gets sent up 5th period, and I made it on the day, right. That's right. We heard it all. So what we would like to do is just do away with the tights and the spandex, so that if we just see them walking, we don't have to do any measuring of any shirts or anything. If we see a tight or spandex walking up, we say, hey, you gotta go home, change, whatever. So we don't fight that battle. And personally, I don't feel comfortable talking to a girl about, for a backside is, exposed. So I'm like, I get a woman, one of the female staff members to address that if I see dress code. So that we may get some kickback from that, but we gave them an opportunity to wear them properly, and it's just by the end of the year, it's really bad. I bet we had 15, 20 girls showing up with the spandex on and a shirt that stopped at the waist.
So tell me, just entertain me for a minute. What is this causing? What problem? I'm trying to, I have again, I'm told a lot of people about this thing, but we got so many battles to fight with kids today, and maybe getting them to school. And I'm gonna start here. I may end somewhere else, but I'm gonna start where I started at when I talked to a lot of people. Some of them sitting in this room. We just want kids to come to school. We want them to be comfortable. We want them to, I'm trying to think 5,000 foot level. What, is there a disruption because of people's got hats on,
I think it's a distraction,
as in?
for the, well.
Take things up, they can avoid golf.
Okay.
I mean, I don't, especially if they got, if they're wearing spandex.
Yeah.
Shirt only to their waist.
Yeah.
Looks like it's spandex. Tells the truth. I mean, these, this is imagination.
Something like that, but I mean,
A person might as well be. I'm not gonna say
Well, I
that,
see
because I
the
don't wanna
cheekies,
disrespect anybody.
no, you don't disrespect me.
I ain't talking about you, I'm talking about anybody. But it's
This is
pretty,
a workshop, right?
it's pretty, redeeming. Spandex.
Some of them want it.
And the different
Little
people that
boys and, or grown boys, and easily distracted by that. I'm just telling you how I see it now.
But again, a culture, I'll go back to culture, you know. When I was at Department of Corrections, they were absolutely banned. Spandex, I lost one of my dearest friends because of pairs of spandex pants. But they're absolutely banned. Because we had a culture that started with our leadership, it's called Dress for Success. We all, which I mean, we were like top of suits and stuff, but then you go to FWC, you wear shorts and Columbia shirt all day long. But I think that if we're gonna do any type of dress code, we need to start with our leadership as well and have that culture instilled in our school, not just in the high school either. You know, Rob's got 8th graders down there. I mean, goodness gracious, they're really starting to feel their, wild oats or whatever. But, and I think we start with these kids and say, hey, don't you want to dress for success? You dress for the job you want, not the job you have. That's the way I was raised in my career. And also, I was also raised, if you can't wear it to church, then you probably don't need to be wearing it to work. That was another way I was raised in my career. But also getting our student council involved. I know we don't, we're new, we're just feeling, we're wet behind the ears a little bit on our student council. Getting our student body to embrace that culture as well and help us. I mean, I may be talking some very high level, but I think we can do it. And I think we get the students behind us, especially our leaders in those schools of these clubs, these beta clubs, these student councils, and bring them in the fold of this and say, hey, help us, Saying all that, I'm gonna say this, at the beginning of the day, I was of the mindset, really, really high. After I talked to a couple of teachers and heard the exhaustion and said, I spend the majority of my day releasing children for shorts with a measuring tape or the liability of a man talking to a girl. As far as the spandex goes, and even the cheekies, because you got to be consistent. And that, I'm just being honest. If you're gonna say cheekies, I'm saying the chubbies. If you're gonna say 3 inches, you know what I feel with cheekies. That's the. I'll take it. You don't want to come out, okay. But if you're going to go from 5 to 3 on because your chubbies or your shorts, then, but you're gonna say no spandex because now you got a shirt that's down here to up here. We're still doing that measurement thing. Really? Don't these teachers need to be teaching? Don't they need to be worried about the security of our school? I'm about ready to say jeans and khakis and a shirt.
we thought we'd get this kickback from that. We wanted to say no shorts.
Oh, yeah, that we will get kicked back.
I can tell you, I talked to parents from Jackson County all the way to Distant. And they follow uniforms, start off with school uniforms. And I say school uniform, they was khaki pants and they had different color polos that were whatever their school colors was gray, blue, white, whatever. But they said after the first year, they was so dang happy. They went to that, because there's no five kids in the morning time, they know what they got to wear. You got this choice here, put it on, let's go. And they saved a lot of money, and so next year, the boys got out of it, they can sell it to the year younger than them, get part of their money back, buy new stuff. Along with the school, so I'm kind of the opinion, yeah, we probably get some backlash a little bit, but let's put them in khakis and polo shirts, like that.
I wouldn't even go as far as khakis, I'd say jeans and a shirt.
Jeans or that.
Jeans or khakis, yeah, I mean.
As long as the
khakis.
jeans didn't have holes in them.
See, and I'll go as far as holes, I mean, this is the way I feel, holes, the knees are below. But every, I know that's not cool, but everything up here, so you're not getting up, you know.
So this is my observation. So you hit the whole point, it's a culture issue.
Yes.
And you know, what was a culture issue for us in the 80s is come right, it's gonna be different 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Is the big issue the actual pants that they're wearing, or the jeans they're wearing, or the shorts wearing, or is it keeping rules? To me, that's the bigger.
Oh, I think it's keep the rules.
That is the bigger thing.
They got a voice.
And so my thing is you know, I wanna make sure we choose our battles. Some of the awards days toward the end of the school year were awful. I was embarrassed. Administration was embarrassed. Somebody goes up and get an award and you see the kids pull back, little girls back. And have, just inappropriate, but it's awards day and that's saying, you get all the kids in there and they go get an award and they're not meeting the dress code at that thing. When you're not going to say, oh, you can't get your award, come on back here, We've got, I feel like we need to communicate with parents better. The number one discipline issue is vaping. I mean, it's just rampant. And, we'll talk about that later, but I'm just saying, I think there's a real, we see it in the world today, I want rules. I don't want boundaries. You know what I'm saying? We don't want boundaries. I'm doing what I want to do, and I want to be what I am, and you're gonna have to like it. If you're not, then you're ignorant, or you're not very, you're not very letting me do my thing. And we know as adults that there's always gonna be somebody in charge. There's always gonna be a supervisor or a customer. If you got your own business, there's gonna be a customer that's gonna tell you what they want, how they want it done. I don't know if there's a middle ground here that you say, you pull your student council in and say, guys, I need y'all to be leaders here. Because maybe what you do this year is going to affect your little brothers and little sisters for years to come. And could you possibly say, this is what we're going to do? And we have that as part of the messaging. It's just a suggestion. And I'll give y'all a final recommendation. But again, I just wanted to talk about it today. Because it'll be controversial. They're going to call you. The folks don't call you. And they'll call me, but they'll call y'all and want y'all to go in a certain direction. But could you say, look, this is our policy. It's a good policy. We just need you to keep the policy. If you violate the policy, this will be so much more than just going home for the day. You come up and you don't have something covering your midsection. And if you don't have that, then for you at that point, it's built in policy. You're one boo-boo and you're out. You don't get to wear that attire the rest of the school. You're out. You've broken the rule. One and done.
But you gotta be very transparent about that.
Very transparent, and it's gotta be, the messaging's gotta get out there. That was just one solution I thought of that would meet them a little halfway, but they understand this rule, and once they say, okay, and I'm not gonna call names, but this person's kid got it, they go, ooh, won't that happen to me? That they can't do it anymore. It would send a signal, and it'll take somebody's gonna test you on it. They're gonna say, I'm gonna see if I can get by with this, and they don't. But again, consistency's got to be paramount. But at least, hopefully, that it's one and done. It's one and done.
You're using your student, they want a voice. That's what they want. They want to be heard. Kids want to be heard today. And I know they may be one sitting right along with me going, let me tell you about what I heard. My mama, you know what I'm saying? She gave me a voice, okay. But give me a phone.
Right, we need their help with the messaging.
Help them, yeah, bring them in. Y'all wanna, and I'll tell you something, what that will do, I think also will make kids say, hey, I wanna be on student council. They're getting to make some help, make some decisions. That's pretty important, you know, and instead of these kids shying away from beta or whatever, you know, I'm
Yeah,
trying to.
Hillary told me, Renee, you guys what's happening? Bless you. I don't know if you remember this. Hillary said that like the first day of school, Mr. Dunn would walk out situations like violation of dress code. This is good. And he'd get the whole student body there first day of school, go over some procedures and stuff. And they would say, y'all think this is beach policy? No, well, you're right, it don't do this. That skirt's too high. Those, you know, blah, blah, whatever the situation was. And then somebody would come out, Hillary said she participated in that. And then somebody, I think a good thing, but, and then they'd have somebody dressed appropriately. Now this you can do. These shorts, these are good shorts. You know, just have something, but the students led that. They led it. They're part of that message.
I believe in that, and I believe, you know, we used to do employees like that, and once the employees felt like they had a voice and could make positive change, then there's your culture, it's being set, and it's being set by not only your staff, but it's being set by your student body.
Here's another thing that rubs me a little raw about this is you have a few offenders over here, but we're gonna cookie cutter everybody else. You got, you know, 5-10% that's offending, but the other 85-90%, they do it right. But they're having to suffer. They're all getting punished together for these. My thing is identify those and say one and done. You got one shot. Guys, you got one shot. You boo-boo that, you don't wear leggings the rest of the year.
Then you have to wear khaki pants every day.
You wear what you want, but you ain't wearing those. I don't know, that was just for me, a little bit of a compromise in trying to
Not punish everybody.
not punish everybody.
Not punish kids for following the rules.
Yeah.
So you hear
I
that
have a
a lot.
problem.
I don't know, Tim, what is the percentage of those that follow those? I mean, is it 90-10, 80-20, I don't know.
It's probably the same kids.
80-20.
Probably the same kids.
If
You see some of the things repeated.
So how do we do this and message this? If we were to go down the road of pulling the student body or like your student council, I don't know if the elections have even happened already, because usually they happen right as you come out of school, right? We don't, may not have.
Yeah, it takes a little.
So how would we get this started and get this message out to the parents before they go and buy the school clothes?
Well, that parents square.
We got parents square is one of those.
Parents square as soon as good, so that they can start that process.
So if we set the rules and say one and done, inappropriate. We can
And that
say,
can- that
whatever
messaging-
wanna stay with you, I mean, I agree that, was it 3? I was 5 foot tall, so I'm still 5 foot tall. So everything was long on me.
This
It
says
was 3
5.
inches,
This says 5.
well, let's go,
I mean, it change. If you cut it to 3, it cuts out those chubbies. But there's no way that the word chubby would be 3. And that's what we're trying to cut.
But like, I've been to the high school a bunch of times this year, just randomly. Mostly boys, with shorts. Now, some of these boys, and I'm not saying any names, because that wouldn't be right. They would probably be 5 inches above the knee on me and boot, but they look like 80s basketball trunks on some of these boys. You know, but a rule is a rule.
but don't they, now I've heard they pull their underwear and long kind of underwear.
They show several inches.
Be past their shorts.
Right,
Past the shorts.
so then that would
That's another.
I didn't say that.
Under Garment, so.
Okay, but they did that.
Yeah.
And then some of them I heard. The teachers got up.
To answer your question, the messaging can go out, that can go out from all the principals, administrators there. I'll echo that as well and say, look, parents, we want to keep distractions at our schools to a minimum. We want to keep teachers from having to be the clothing police, fashion police. We want them teaching, keeping kids safe. That's their priority. Bell instruction. We don't want them to have to do that. So your kid gets one opportunity to get it right. And if they come in there and they and they violate that policy, they will not be allowed to, and we can be very specific per the policy, and we will have to add that in there. They will not be allowed to wear leggings unless this happens. They won't.
And I think that, you leading the way.
Yeah.
You dress for, setting that culture, setting
We
those
want
standards.
to, absolutely.
You do it as
Yeah.
well through administration, we do it, and I think people will follow in suit with that, but you gotta start at the top, and it's gotta come down from the top. And then get those kids involved in that, and bring, I'm not even opposed to having student council come to school board meetings and talk to us, or whatever, I don't care. As long as it's like, we're working on a partnership, this is a partnership, we need our kids, these are our future. I mean, these people's gonna be, a lot of these kids just be voting, they're gonna be making some future decisions.
Decision makers. That's right.
That's right, so let's bring them on in.
I think if they have a voice in it, they'll be a lot more
I
likely
believe
to
it.
abide by it. Yeah,
Yes.
we would be so.
This policy, I hate bringing this up, but this policy also pertains to our teachers.
That'd be one of your first things.
I've seen over the years, I've seen some, and you just,
Scratch your head.
they're not gonna police anything, because they're not policing what they wear. That's where, administration.
That's right.
Kyle,
And we do have board policy that addresses students, teachers, staff, grooming.
But I think that shows, it shows so much leadership, Kyle, when you say, okay, yeah, we're gonna tighten down on the dress codes. We're gonna tighten down on the teachers too, and the staff, and make sure that we set an example for our kids. And if we don't do that, then you can't expect them to follow.
That's right.
I'm sorry.
That's right.
And if you can, at the end of the day, if you can't get a grip on this, if you can, you're spending 3 hours, 4 hours a day going with policy, you're the one to do it, or Oxford. I'm sure there's an issue about that issue. If not, at the end of the day, we're gonna be where, what James is saying, we make them do it, and we'll have a.
Make it real simple.
Which solves everything.
Which, and you wanna give them the freedom, you want to give things, but if I give you 1 bottle, you get 10 bottles,
I just hate y'all are having to spend so much time policing this. This is.
Well, that's not just, it's not just,
That's not very
it's not just being administrator. You got teachers.
It's not the job that it becomes a job.
It says Jennifer, she's gonna police, she's been, ever since I've known her, she's been policing the hats and everything, there's no prejudice between boys and girls, whatever. They get her glasses, she's like, hey. Why, and it's already.
Well, I can tell you exactly, well, I got my team, Tim, why can't I, and then it's on, and then you got a contract, it just,
That's a fight, but it should be fight.
no, it doesn't.
So you go with the dress code, if that doesn't work, you just gotta take it to the next level.
Do you guys do orientation like ninth grade orientation, when they come over, y'all, is this part of the orientation?
An open house.
Huh?
And they do it on
It goes
Wednesday.
over.
And open house?
Adamantly,
And then first day of school, or right after the second day, maybe we get one, and then we go up, like you saying, we go over that, we actually brought out a kid that was at the chubby zones that do not wear it. We show them like that.
Y'all be there. Not prayer for not for
Everybody.
And it might be a good idea, at least assemblies, if we want to get kids involved, everybody's talking about uniforms, this, that, and the other. In the assembly, you tell them, get student council up there, or whoever, with some students that's on board with all of us, and say, look, we had a problem with dress code last year. It was a big issue. This year, you're getting your opportunity to make it right. Because we've already talked to the board, they all agree that we might go to a uniform. It's y'all's responsibility to do the right thing.
I love it.
And if y'all can't do the right thing, then next year, we're gonna do the right thing. That gives them a full year to do the right thing, and if not, we make a decision.
You don't fix it, we will.
That's it.
You don't fix it.
That's what I was thinking.
But you still need the one and done, because
That's
we don't have seniors.
And I just offer that as a suggestion, it needs to be something that's pretty brutal.
Yeah, we gonna-
You don't get 10, you don't get 2, 3, 4, 5 chances.
Then you would get kids policing kids, because they would get out of the truck in the morning and say, hey, you ain't fitting to mess up my dress code, you need to go yourself to the
I'm
house.
telling you, kids get real about that stuff, and I just believe it, I believe that we are giving them an opportunity to lead, and that's what we want our kids to do. Be leading.
When they leave that classroom, they have to go home, they're missing instruction,
Yes.
they're missing.
We have to make an announcement. Teachers get dressed.
And it's bad for everybody, because obviously if a parent lets a kid go to school dress that way, they feel like it's okay. So then when they get sent home, somebody's fixing to get a phone call from
Well,
a
let's get,
mad parent.
Well, it may be too, you know, parents not there. Kids
That's
don't have to, they, Mom, I got this on, okay.
Everybody likes that.
I was already in
But
Tallahassee.
it's just not nothing good comes out of it.
They don't see.
You know.
Nothing good comes out of it.
But I think we need to get that message out as quickly as we can,
I think
so
that's-
mamas and daddies don't go buy
Yep.
chubbies.
Yep.
And, you know, all this other, you know what I'm saying, maybe they do buy them, but they don't.
I had a-
Hey, guys.
I had a first grade teacher, my first year teaching school. We had 3 or 4 sections of first grade, 3 or 4, this is what we'll call it, 2 or 3, 4 sections of second grade, big classes. And, dealt with teachers who were very disciplined, kept kids in order, and those that didn't. There was this one lady, that I'll not name, love her to death, her kids were climbing under the rafters, just so misbehaving. And she asked me, she said, I just want y'all to understand, what am I doing wrong? Mr. Guidance Counselor, so I said, okay, well, let me look at your discipline program. And I'm a first year guy. It didn't take me about 2 seconds to figure out, so 30 kids in the class, it's back before class size amendment, 30 kids in her class. Each kid's got a little envelope on a board, and they got 4 popsicle sticks. Okay, if they boo-boo up, you know, make a mistake, you gotta go close, bring me a popsicle stick. The first one was a warning, second one was a warning, third one was a warning, and on the 4th one, you got to go to the principal's office. So I just did a little math, and I said, okay. So before anything really happens, every kid's got three passes. And you got 30 kids, that's 90 instances of behavior that's not good for the classroom before anybody goes to the principal's office. She's got 90 times that I have to tell a kid, stop doing that, you'll get popsicles too. I always kind of liked Lamar Ford's thing. Some of y'all heard this story. When he got out of the military, I don't even know if it's true or not, but Mr. Ford told us. I think it was probably in that economics class. He got on a chain gang and was working chain gang, give him a gun. And the rules were, if any of the inmates would try to take off, you'd have to say halt, halt, halt 3 times, shoot in the air 1 time, and if they kept running, you could shoot them. That was the state law. So he got on the chain gang. Oh, he told us this story. He said he got out there and he said, this is the rules. I have to say halt 3 times and shoot there before I can shoot any of y'all. So boys, let's just get this out of the way right now. Halt, halt, halt. He shot up in there and said, if any of y'all run, I'll shoot. That, the point being, let's cut to the chase and get to the real structure here. I think there's a lot of wisdom in that. You know, if we give them those popsicle stick chances and they keep coming back and we offend them, then we're wasting their time and our time. So I will tweak that. I'll meet with him and look, we'll, you know, it needs to be a policy. Y'all go with it. Y'all won't get calls.
I like Ricky's idea a lot. Just a little warning, you know, be real with them. Let them know that's being discussed. They don't, would say the majority of the kids don't want that. Or they don't think they want that to happen. I don't know this being discussed.
And it gets back to what's this about? Following rules. Following rules.
But let me ask you a question. Okay, I'm just going. You go in, you start off the school year, we're starting to do parents wear leave. So you go about 6 months, you know how they start off real good and then you kind of get lax a little bit. Do we need to do this in the middle of the school year again? Just have a little while, maybe a pep rally or something, or hey guys, just want to remind y'all, we're one and done now, I'm just, because sometimes even as adults, we kind of get lax in different things and sometimes we just need to be brought back. I think if you let it go, December, January, and it's starting to see, maybe, and y'all have to make that call. I don't know, I just don't. Assembly, some kind of general assembly, and say, hey, we just want to remind y'all now, we kind of.
Done real good.
Done
Start
real good.
second
Let's keep
semester.
it going,
We'll
guys.
start second semester, we're gonna finish, we're gonna start it strong, we're gonna finish. strong.
Right, we're gonna finish strong, now let's go. And it may be to work.
And one and done is a pretty tough standard.
That is
I'm not saying that's the way we're going, I'm saying that's just a suggestion. You
I
may wanna show mercy on one and say, here's your one pass,
was
They're
afraid
not
to
having-
strike you out, but,
you know.
I just have heard the teachers and the exhaustion, and that's crazy. Walking around. Measure.
So I'll continue to dialogue with the principals. We have a leadership team with them on the 6th. And so we'll maybe hammer some of those things out and let y'all know that.
And maybe
Obviously,
some of
y'all have to approve code of conduct.
And maybe some of your potential student council members, maybe.
But we do need, whatever we come up with, we do need to get it out there so that that can.
Because that's gonna be.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
I don't think we just make, send it out.
I think you do it weekly.
Yeah, do it weekly, but someone will catch it or whatever. They may get tired of seeing it, but then you're gonna drive the point home.
Right.
We're not going to mess around with it for too much seat time or whatever.
Right.
To students. And I know 10 students right now in high school that I can call names out. You have had problems.
Yeah.
And one student, teacher had a problem with one student, whole class suffers, because you're dealing with that one student. Instead of spending time on the rest of the class, it's a problem.
Okay,
Kim, thank you.
thank you, Tim.
It's a hard day for them to navigate. I hear the heart.
It's been there, but nothing.
It's always, it was.
I think
That's where they do.
Who did?
I do got a question.
Yeah.
So the weight room and gym.
No,
Gym class and all that.
Volleyball,
That's got their own.
I mean.
So I got a 16-year-old.
No, that don't apply to me.
She works out in Leggett.
Yeah, and that's in policy. That's in policy.
classroom.
You're working out or,
Got a tank top on.
it's written in there into it already.
Probably could do something about boys having shirts on.
Shoot, wanna work out,
Just hygiene. Just hygiene, I mean,
I still think,
my daughter, when she was going out. Well, when Audrey was going for, regional, she was working out with the boys. She would have boys laying on the bench, all sweaty, and then she had to get on deck, just, I mean, as a parent, none of
The
this.
first thing I do is have all that, the best, or
Towel.
sanitary towel. I know she's out working, maybe she probably sweating more now, she's gonna work on it.
sweat through the shirt.
All right. Any other thing, we need to come and reconvene real quick and handle that agenda. I don't want to rush anybody. Are y'all okay with doing that? Okay, so Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over.
Make a motion to adjourn this workshop. Mr. Moore,
Second.
second. Meeting adjourned, workshop adjourned.
You right,
We're gonna reconvene on our, Liberty County School Board special meeting. What was that? What, eight? Yeah. That was a motion for 12 months.
Yes, if we need to correct, there's a portion, two portions actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Melanie, that it rates within the RFP language, it was 10-month, and we need to revise to 12-month. And also in the section of employee contribution, the district will make 12 employee payroll deductions, not 10. So that does need to be revised before we advertise this RFP.
Motion on that?
Motion.
Mr. Moore, second.
Second.
Mr. Jones, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Any other business? Motion adjourned.
Motion.
Motion. Mr. Jones, second. Mr. Flower, take the turn.